Hi baby cakes, I'm really sorry about the crappy lighting in this video, but I'm filming it very first thing in the morning because at the time of filming that is the only time that I can give to unboxing this, and if I do not unbox this fucking deck soon, I swear I'm going to scream at the top of my lungs because I want it in my hands and it's still in the package and it's just killing me softly, so I'm gonna have to just unbox it with this crappy lighting. The sun is literally only just coming up over the horizon, but I've got a very full day on the day of filming this, and so this is really the only time that I have, guys. But the cutaways that I show you of the close-ups of the cards that I talk about, they're going to be in mint condition. I'm going to wait for the sun to fully rise before I actually film the close-ups of the deck for the cutaways. So with that all being said, with that technical hoo-ha officially out of the way, I am going to be doing my unboxing and first impressions of the Tarot of Bones. I am very excited about this deck. I did not hear of it from anyone. I have not seen it mentioned anywhere. I literally was just looking around on Etsy for a tarot deck that had something to do with death or bones or something. And the reason for that is that I really want to find a deck that I can use to work with my matron. Now, as some of you may be aware, a lot of you won't be aware, my matron is Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld, and by matron I mean the principal divine feminine archetype that I enjoy working with, that I have represented on my altar, that I have the closest working connection with as an archetype and as a dynamic force in my life, as a energy, if you will, that I turn to in times of need and that I learn from. I use the runes to communicate with my matron, to connect with that part of the universal archetypal energy of the divine feminine. But I really want to have a deck as well. I would really love to have a deck as well. I have never really been clear on what that deck would look like. I thought for a little while about using my Bohemian Gothic Tarot, but something about that didn't seem right. I just wasn't sure. At the time of filming this, I do still have the Deviant Moon Tarot to unbox. Now obviously I've seen a lot of pictures of the Deviant Moon Tarot. It's a very popular deck. It is a resoundingly popular deck. So I haven't seen all of the images by a long way, but I am aware of the style and the vibe and the energy of the Deviant Moon Tarot, and I don't think it's going to be that for working with my matron. I'm very excited to have it. I'm very excited to be able to unbox it this month, but I know it's not going to be the one. I've definitely thought about adding that Dark Goddess Tarot to my collection. It is on my wish list, but of course that does feature tons of different Dark Goddess archetypes. So I want something that I can associate with my matron, that I can keep on my altar, that I feel like really gives me the kind of vibe and the kind of energy that to me resonates with me as something that's connected to my matron deity. So when I saw the Tarot of Bones, it just kind of leapt out at me, and I looked at it, and it didn't take me long to add it to cart. I really just felt like, yeah, something's happening here, something is fizzy. It may not necessarily be the one, in which case if I like it and it feels like a workable deck, I will of course be placing it into my collection to use to work with clients. But the intention is not for that to happen. The intention is that it will be actually the one that I will use to work with my matron deity, hopefully. So the Tarot of Bones is a natural history themed divination set by an artist called Looper, and I will give you a little bit of information that I've taken directly from the website here just to make sure that I absolutely get it right. The Tarot of Bones is an ambitious project combining the nature-inspired symbolism of animal bones with the Tarot's well-loved archetypes to create an unparalleled divination set for the 21st century. As animals exist within vibrant and complex ecosystems, the bones are ensconced in permanent assemblage artworks using natural and reclaimed materials, reflecting both the animal's habitat and emblems of their respective cards. Now on the Etsy shop, when I purchased this from Looper, there was very clear indications on there that she doesn't actually kill any of these animals or sacrifice these animals to get the bones. She naturally sources them. They are claimed from the environment, and actually I think a cut of the proceeds of each deck sold actually goes to a charity that cares for local wildlife in her area. I will check that and I will leave down below the details in more depth, but that's what I recall at the time of actually purchasing the deck on Etsy. To be honest with you, it never really crossed my mind that she was killing or sacrificing the animals to get the bones. But it's good that she actually states explicitly that that's not what's going on, and that actually she's very conscious of the environment and the welfare of animals, etc., and that this is about naturally sourced bones. So Lupa actually mentions on the website, since 1998 I've incorporated bones and other animal remains into my artwork and my spirituality. The Tower of Bones is the culmination of almost 2 decades of artistic innovation and spiritual practice, combining a multitude of skills with carefully curated designs drawn from a deep wellspring of inspiration. Each assemblage piece serves as funerary art to honour the beings who once wore these bones, and more widely the plants and fungi whose dried remains complement the skeletal features. The thing that I really enjoyed a lot about the pictures of the imagery of the deck was actually that plant life and fungi and all that kind of thing had also been incorporated into these little assemblages, these kind of like collections of objects, still lifes if you will, and that really added something for me. I also really enjoyed the borders. There's something about this deck that is, to me, there's something about it that is off but on, and I really can't be any clearer than that. Maybe I'll be able to be a little bit more clearer once I actually crack into it. But to me, there was something about it that was almost a no, and then that was what kind of made it a yes. Like it fits. It's like it shouldn't, but it does, if that makes any sense at all. The Tarot of Bones, a natural history themed divination set. Oh, it's exciting. Greetings and thank you for buying the Tower of Bones. As a 100% self-employed artist and author, people like you are crucial to helping me raise the funds necessary for large projects like this one, and I literally couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. What you hold in your hands now is the culmination of over 2 years' work and a product of a 20-year-long creative career. So here in this letter, the creator urges buyers to tell other people about the Tarot of Bones. Well, I'm definitely fulfilling that request now. So as I'm just getting into the plastic, it says here, divination with cast or fire-cracked bones is an ancient art stretching back thousands of years into our history. Its younger cousin, the tarot, enjoys greater popularity than ever. The Tower of Bones combines the nature-inspired symbolism of animals with the tarot's well-loved archetypes, to create an unparalleled divination set for the 21st century. Each card features an assemblage created from bones and other natural and reclaimed materials. There is actually what looks to be a really amazing guidebook as well, guys, but when I came across the Tarot of Bones, there were no guidebooks left. There were no guidebooks available. So I didn't actually end up purchasing one. I'm not really into guidebooks. I think if I ever made my own tarot deck, which is a lot more on the cards now than it ever used to be, I'm definitely getting images coming up in my mind of what I might want my own tarot deck to look like. If I ever made my own tarot deck, I think I would absolutely delight in writing the guidebook. I think that would be a really exciting part of the process for me. So it strikes me as really odd that I'm not overwhelmingly enamored necessarily with guidebooks, and I probably don't give them the time and the consideration that they potentially do deserve. I mean, I do like a big chunky guidebook. I'm not so taken with the little white books necessarily, but even with the big chunky guidebooks, I really don't think I give them enough time and enough focus anyway. So whether or not I will actually purchase the guidebook for the Tower of Bones remains to be seen. But at the moment, I'm just really thinking of it as being a strong contender and hopefully the right one to do some work with my matron deity. Okay, so what I meant about it being off but on at the same time is that the borders take up a lot of the cards, and the borders are all kind of different. So there's lots of different colours in there. There's lots of different greens and browns and different hues. And, you know, it kind of feels like it shouldn't all go together and it isn't really cohesive. And yet somehow at the same time it works. And I just found that really interesting and really cool that there's all these different borders. And in a way, it looks a bit haphazard and a little bit sort of all over the fucking place. But at the same time, there is something about it that just works and that does it for me. And I feel, you know, really, really comfortable with it and really like, yeah, you know, this works. This is good. These borders, these great big bulky borders that kind of dominate the art and dominate the feel of the deck are actually working for me, whereas I think for a lot of people perhaps they wouldn't work so well. So these are the backs of the cards. You've got an assemblage there. I don't know if that's actually the assemblage for one of the cards in the deck, but there's some crystals, there's some animal fur there. There's a shell, so it's really beautiful and it very much kind of captures the energy of the deck overall. Immediately we go right in with the Fool, which I feel kind of has a festive vibe to it in a way. To me, there's something really Christmassy about those greens and reds, and just even as I'm looking at this very first card in the deck, it's becoming immediately apparent to me that I am going to need the guidebook, because I guess it's really important what kind of foliage and what kind of flower and what kind of skull this is that I'm looking at, and even what kind of bark that is. And I'm assuming the guidebook tells all about exactly, you know, what items have been used here and why, and I'm missing out on so much of that context. So that actually immediately clears it up for me that I am going to need the guidebook. So where I just said that it remains to be seen whether or not I get the guidebook, actually guys, I'm going to have to get the guidebook, because I'm missing out on so much of the complexity, I think, of this deck already. Which is kind of unfortunate, because it means it's going to take even longer maybe for me to actually get into this, because I know that the guidebooks are not in stock at the moment. But anyway, this is a really, really strong start from the Fool, the very first card in the deck. This is really beautiful. The impact is there. Immediately I feel I'm being plunged into this world, and I love this particular assemblage. I love the colours of the flowers, which do appear to be dried, which is really, really a lovely touch as well. The Magician is this incredible Ouroboros kind of reimagining, which there's just so much depth to that. That's really exciting to see. That's something really cool. I can get on board with that completely. I think there is something, of course, about the nature of magic and infinity, and the nature of the understanding of the metaphysical concepts, which is really connected to the Magician. There's also just so many personal insights running through me right now about the Magician and the way that the Magician card has been set up in this particular deck. This is really beautiful. So there's a lot there that that I can unpack. I really enjoy the very scratched wood that the assemblage has been laid onto for the Magician. That adds something to me as well, and makes me think of scrying and that kind of thing. That is a hell of a High Priestess. The impact there is very high. This is a really moody card for the High Priestess, and the background looks like leather, which is a really kind of interesting texture there, and it's just got this incredible blue element to it, this card, very much like the blue that feels like it's touching the earth when a particular kind of moon is in the sky. There's something about that that's really gorgeous, and of course I love that crescent moon there beneath the skull lying on its side, so that's a really nice touch. That's really nice to see. Oh wow, I really love the Empress. I love the use of these chains on either side that seem to be connected to the flowers, and I also really enjoy the frame with the art inside it above the skull. There's something very sort of surreal about this. This kind of reminds me of like a Frida Kahlo painting. And there's the use of chains again in the Justice card, with that really beautiful heart that's been connected to the chain as well. That's really interesting to me. That makes me think about how much we take different causes into our hearts, how much it means to us to fight for the rights of marginalised people, and fight for the rights of the planet, and fight for justice in our personal lives. There's something about the heart, I think, and the chain that really does it for me with the Justice card. And again, you've got that really beautiful looking kind of gnarled wooden appearance to the background as well. I really enjoy the Hermit card for the eggs in the assemblage at the bottom, and the sense that the bird skull is kind of guarding over the eggs, like protecting the eggs. And then you can see this kind of tumbled crystal in the bird's beak, which is something really beautiful to think about as well, and something which is echoed in other decks that I own, the idea of the bird holding something in its mouth for the Hermit card. Oh wow, the Death card is incredible, absolutely beautiful. I don't know whether or not that's skin in the background, some kind of flesh in the background, or whether it's like fishing net. It's just so confusing to understand what these things are without the guidebook. It almost seems a little bit idiotic to me now that I was not convinced that I would need the guidebook, and I went ahead and purchased the deck even though there were no guidebooks to be had. I mean, had there have been guidebooks, I would have purchased a deck with a guidebook, but I didn't think I was going to need to worry about it very much. And actually, of course, there's all this nuance that I'm missing out on, but that is a hell of a Death card. That it's got the same high impact and the same dark energy as the High Priestess card earlier. With the Temperance card, again, there's this kind of surrealist art take on the card. I feel like the Temperance card in this deck departs quite radically from the imagery that I've seen so far in the Major Arcana. I feel like I'm really interfacing with this bird as well. I feel like I'm really having a relationship with that bird skull. It's very head on and very kind of looking almost for an interaction with you, seeking an interaction with you. And then you've got these two kinds of what appear to be water meeting and forming a pattern between them underneath. And then you've got what appears to be the sun in one corner above. And then this incredible star cluster, this kind of part of the Milky Way almost in the other top corner. So lots to think about here to do with refinement and mixing of different elements and creating a recipe for harmony and cohesion. Really beautiful thoughts coming through with Temperance for me, even though, as I said, it does depart quite radically from the imagery that I've seen so far in the majors. The Moon card is really interesting. There appears to be a being in the moon, dancing in the moon. It looks a little bit like a frog, actually, which is interesting and something that I will definitely think on more. And underneath the moon, there appears to be either a patch of earth with part of a skull on it, or it could even be a body of water with a skull kind of floating on the top of it. That's something to consider. I'm really sorry about the sound of the traffic, guys. I don't want to stop filming this now because I've started, so I may as well finish. But I didn't realise the traffic was quite so loud from this room. I'm not in my home, so I'm actually staying elsewhere at the moment. I didn't realise the traffic was going to be that loud. Sorry if it's coming through really strongly, guys. Oh wow, you've got the incredible pebbles here in the World card with the 4 elements on them, and just this incredible verdant green situation occurring, which is giving me such a positive, such a potent feeling for the World card. So that's really lovely to see. Oh, I love the way that the scales have been created for the 2 of Pentacles. That's really gorgeous. The 8 of Pentacles appears to be formed on this beautiful gold disc, which is really a very potent touch, visually speaking. I really enjoy the background for this card as well. I think this is a really pretty, really interesting take on the 8 of Pentacles, and it does give a richness and a depth to the meaning of this card for me. When I very first looked at the 9 of Pentacles, it didn't appear to me that there were actually any bones in it. It just looked like a piece of cloth, like a close-up of part of a tapestry or something. But if you look upon closer inspection, you can see that there are little bones on it, or what appear to be bones anyway. I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. I will really need to refer to the guidebook and get hold of the guidebook. But again, this is quite a strong departure from the look of a lot of the other assemblages in the other cards. Not entirely sure how I feel about the 9 of Pentacles, if I feel it's too much of a departure from the overall energy and style of the deck. I'll have to think on it more, although I really do love the colours and I really do love that piece of material, that piece of cloth that has been used in this particular card. I'm just not sure if it fits with the overall energy of the deck, or if it's a little bit jarring and it's pulling me out of the overall energy of the deck. I really love the King and Queen of Pentacles. To me, they form a very strong duo. They look like they belong together. There is something really cohesive about the King and the Queen. So I very much am enjoying those 2 cards, and I think they work together as a really strong pairing. There is something very hope-giving and very vibrant about the 2 of Wands. I feel like the sunset or sunrise in the background there with that very potent orange red and then moving up into that golden yellow is very radiant, and it kind of punctures a lot of the other colours that are more prevalent in the deck. So the palette of the deck is kind of punctured a little bit by the 2 of Wands there, which is exciting to see. Oh wow, I love the 3 of Wands with that map behind the bones. That is really beautiful. I love the use of things like maps and stuff like that. So this is a really lovely background to see for the 3 of Wands. I really enjoy that. I like the fact that the 3 of Wands is so muted. And that background for the 3 of Wands, that cool looking grey blue, is really pretty. I love the 10 of Wands with this bunch of bones tied together with a rope. That is really beautiful, and I enjoy the disc as well that they've been laid on and the decorative dots around. It definitely gives me a good feeling. I think it's really visually pleasing. Wow, the Two of Cups is absolutely beautiful. There is something so gorgeous about that. That actually looks like a gift box with a necklace in the middle, with a really beautiful, ornate old necklace that's been presented very beautifully and kind of offered up as a gift. So that is really a visually pleasing Two of Cups there for me. Wow, the Eight of Cups is very moody, very sparse. That really captures my imagination in a similar way to the Death card and the High Priestess card. The Ten of Cups offers a really interesting vividity. We've got that same kind of blue-black leather effect on the back, and then you've got this kind of sort of oval, like a cameo kind of vibe. Like it seems as though you're looking at a brooch with this lovely kind of rainbow river running through it with the bones laid on top. That really gives me a lot to think about. That gives me a lot to work with. So I'm definitely excited by that for the Ten of Cups. Obviously, there is a lot of rainbow imagery in Ten of Cups cards, but I think that's a really interesting take on it. Oh my goddess, I love the Knight of Cups. That is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. I love, again, the use of art in the background, the use of kind of the framed art piece, and then that little heart is just adorable. There's something about that that really speaks to me. That's right up my alley. I'm not really that sure how I feel about the Three of Swords at the moment. Hopefully it will grow on me, but I feel like what's happened there is that the traditional imagery of the Three of Swords has been so closely honoured with materials that just don't do it the justice that it deserves. So it looks a little bit nothingy. It looks a little bit like just some random object, some piece of litter that doesn't really symbolise a heart being pierced with anything, but just kind of looks like a crumpled up bit of sort of not a lot, really. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, because a lot of you will know that the Three of Swords is my favourite card in the Minor Arcana, and it really is important to me. It means a lot to me. So I'm not really gripped by this particular interpretation, I must say. There is a sharpness to the Five of Swords that is very eye-catching. If this was in a spread, it would definitely be one of the cards that would leap out at you the most. So I definitely like that about the Five of Swords, and it is instantly giving me some feelings, some downloads, some things to work with and contemplate, which is great. I absolutely love the foliage from the fir tree in the Page of Swords. I really enjoy the bird skull there. There's something about this card which captures, I think, the essence of the deck in its entirety. Finally, the Queen of Swords has a really interesting, beautiful air energy to it, which is very appropriate. And there's something about this which feels very divine feminine to me. I can definitely get into this Queen of Swords. This is a really beautiful one, and I will enjoy exploring that one in my journaling as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for this unboxing and first impression of the Tower of Bones by Lupa. This has been very interesting for me. I will leave the details for the website and the Etsy shop down below for you if this is something that you are thinking of looking into or adding to your wish list or purchasing. In terms of whether or not I could potentially use this for communication with my matron, I definitely think that I could. I'm going to sit with this for a couple of weeks now. I'm going to journal with it a little bit and see how I feel. But I definitely can see it on the altar. I can definitely see myself getting strong messages from it. There is a depth to it. There is something really fizzy about it. I can see myself using it to get messages, to get insights, and to do that really important self-development work that my matron is so much connected to for me. I do have the Alana Fairchild Oracle of the Mother Mary to connect more closely with the Blessed Virgin, and that's been really great, and I've had that next to my altar or on my altar since I purchased it, and I've been journaling with it, and I've been getting my messages from it, and that was what urged me to be a little bit more proactive about looking for a deck that I could use in the same way with my matron Hel. So I definitely feel I've made the right choice in purchasing this, and I'm excited to see where the exploration can go from here. Thanks again for joining me, guys. Blessed be. Mwah. Bye, Pop Tarts.